I'm Silveroxis, and I managed to get another week 1 clear of the level 120 NPC for that was added with the latest story update. Cape Cold 120, the Timid Ex-Mercenary, is probably the hardest one of them all so far, with over 7.2 million HP and some of the most obnoxious gimmicks possible. I optimized and did everything possible to finally get a clear. This is not stable. It sucks, because every time you touch the dude, he counters you, and shortly after, you can't dodge anymore. So every time you try to shave shields with anybody, you get hit by things. If you do a physical attack, you get physical attack fail. If you do a magic attack, you get magic attack fail. He does insane amount of damage, so you have to have a tank. He cleanses himself, so you have to reset and make sure you do debuffs. And with only 15 turns helmet, you just have to make sure you're doing the maximum possible damage. So I went with Ring a Bell, who could do the highest possible damage in the game currently in Global. With Kilns tanking, Kilns does have his A4 on, with Hammy A4 on Richard behind him to give him maximum defense, and even then, he can still die if he gets crit enough. Even with over 7,200 HP, super high defense, super high damage mitigation, super high, and he recovers HP, and every 20% of all damage he gets instantly. Like, you can still lose everything. I did have to buy the Chomper pet. I did want the extra Chomper anyway, because I think the King Chomper looks cute, but I did end up needing to get that, I think, in order to ensure I had enough damage in each break. Maybe it's not required, but I just went ahead and got it, because I decided I was going to get it anyway. So it ended up coming in handy. The name of the game, as you can see here, is just setting up all the buffs and debuffs, because he cleanses on turn 4 and at the start of turn 5. So you can't start doing debuffs seriously until turn 5. And so as you can see, I'm just stalling with Ring a Bell. Every single turn he's just consuming ether, just so that way he doesn't like lose, he gets any attack misses on him. And I'm specifically like attacking there with Kilns, so that way he gets rid of his miss stack, so that way he can do a little bit of damage and stuff on break when needed. And otherwise it's just kind of getting the shields down. You'll see that I am not using Prim X for regen. I'm actually using Nefty. Nefty regen plus her passive regen from her Chiron points is actually just enough for Ring a Bell to get back his HP in order to do his 5-hit into his EX skill. And it's also enough to get Kilns back to full HP each time, because I have Nefty set up with the magic axe and some magic accessories and the highest magic pet I was able to spare. So turn 5 is the turn where things start to get crazy, because there is a lot of inconsistency in this fight. So turn 5 is where Richard does his Rippling Slash, so I do need a sword res down to proc. Then on turn 6 or 7, I am using Tatlock A4. I wait for one of those to proc on turn 6 or 7 in order to get cap passive defense down, because the first break is the break where you can get the most possible damage, so I'm doing all the setup possible to get the highest damage output possible in the first turn on the first break. And that's why I'm like, so I can get the Signet debuff, so I'm even using like Lucetta's ult to get that extra 10% ult def down. Like, everything is getting set up. So yeah, Richard does get a sword res down proc. And yeah, as you can see, as he cleansed them and started turn 5, and like now he's hitting Canary through her dodges too. So that's another annoying gimmick. You can't just use Canary to dodge tank everything. I do use the ally strategically as well. So then yeah, so I do Meowvelus into Akala to do pet stacking, and then I activate Life from Death here. Use Kilns ult, Signa ult. And I did get a Tatlock A4 proc on this turn, so I know I'm set up. So I'm checking, and I was like, yep, I got it. Because I wasn't paying attention and missed it. But the most inconsistent part is depending on what attacks he uses on turn 10. Turn 10 is the deadliest turn by far, because if he doesn't do any AoEs and he just does a lot of focused attacks, Kilns will die despite having that much health. So yeah, turn 7 is the first break turn, so we're using the Divine Beast. Gonna use the first Chomper use here. Nefty, another reason I use Nefty is I use her for 7-hit shield shave later on. That ends up being required, and her issue instructions lets me cap damage up with Richard's sword damage up. So that ended up being important. Plus, it also caps ult attack up with Kilns' ult. Because the name of the game was as much damage as possible. Because this guy has 7.2 million health. This fight will get so much easier with the next chapter's weapons, the Calamity weapons that let you that do even more grade, more damage, and the 20% potency up on those stacks with Solon and Canary, so you get even more damage out of it. Because the current Celestia weapons that do 20% potency up do not stack. Also, fortunately, even though Richard misses, his buff still activates. So here, this will do over 1 million damage. And yeah, so he does heal enough to get over 90%, which is very important. And Kilns' EX skill, having 3 uses, ends up being clutch, because after this, the name of the game is to basically speed run breaks. Because you have to just keep breaking them in order to minimize damage taking and get as much damage out as possible. And a lot of this fight is just, you know, taking my time and making sure I don't mess up. Nefty does have Premax A4 on, so she gets that buff extension for her regen, her damage up, active damage up, and her ult buffs. So because of that, plus Lucetta, like, Ring a Bell's cooking. This does over 2 million damage here, because it's a 10 hit by basically 205,000 average times 10, so that's a lot of damage there. Cool 90k from Kilns helps. And then this is where it gets really dangerous, and a lot of this does have a bit of RNG too, because he has to specifically not use physical miss skills. Also, on the turn out of break, he doesn't counter. So it's Ring a Bell safe to do 5 hits through shield for some decent damage. And I'm also not bothering with debuffs and stuff right now because, yeah, so I got lucky here. He did elemental attack down and not physical attack down, so all of Kilns' 10 hit will hit. And that's why it's not, this isn't consistent clear, because he does have to not use the physical miss 3 hit. And yeah, that does basically 200k damage. And so yeah, this is the deadliest turn of the game. This is the deadliest turn of the run, where you just have to pretty much hope he doesn't kill Kilns. Because this is where I was like, wait, I could use this to cap anti-attack, and then I realized that he got speed down but debuffed so far that he's going last, so there's no point. And same with Signa's going after 2 of the 2 uses, so I couldn't throw out Signa in order to like cap anti-attack down. So I was like, well, I'll just go for damage, because this is the last time he cleanses in the fight, by the way. After turn 10, he will not cleanse again. So basically at turn 10, that's when you want to start stacking all your debuffs again, and then just keep going for breaks. Because and the key is to break. I break on turn 11, and then I break on turn 14. And it's very important to get that break on turn 14, because when you break a 120 on turn 14, it actually specifically messes up their AI a little bit. So basically, when they come out of break after turn 14, so on turn 16 when they come out of break, instead of attacking, then they'll get serious. So if you're able to quickly re-break again, you can get an extra break out, and that ended up being what saved this fight, as you'll see. And I'm just sitting here thinking like everything through, because I got the Tatlock A4 proc. I've been at this fight forever, and I'm just like, am I good? Like, because I'm scared of Kiln's dying. That's the thing. I'm trying to decide what the best thing to do is, and I'm counting my shields. And I'm trying to decide like if I should buff with Richard or if I should do his 5-hit and which attack I should use. But I'm like, yeah, again, sorry about the delay. It's just, I'm literally just panicking and just wondering if I'm making the best choice. Because I'm sitting there thinking I could do that, but then I realize when she goes later, it just is not going to matter. So it's just going to come down to whether Kiln survives or not. So yeah, so he debuffs himself again, but I do anti-attack on Canary because you need that damage mitigation. And here comes the pain. He does the AoE. If he doesn't do the AoE there, then Kilns dies. If he does all single target attacks, Kilns will die. Even with that much health. As you can see there, like he almost died still. And this is why having the second Chomper matters. Because I'm able to basically on this break have another 30% damage up. I do go for a Richard, hopefully letting me have another proc. Because if he procs, then I'll be capped on sword res down. And then I'm just checking Ring of Bells buffs. Like I see that he's good on old buffs. Damage up is still active. And I believe I go with Cheerful Scrapping, not because it's good damage, but because it does defense down. I'm basically trying to decide if I want to go for Signa ult now or save it. Like if I wanted to get it charged. Yeah, so every single hit's doing 2 extra turns of defense down. Richard does give me a proc, which I was really happy about. And the damage goes down a lot, but that's still 75k times 5. That's still pretty decent damage. And I'm able to do this because I'm going to go for an immediate re-break. So I'm like, well, I can do this now. Because my plan was to hope that I can get the immediate rebreak. Because I use Kilns to cleanse his stacks here, his miss stacks here. He only has one stack, so I do that just to get one hit. And then I do that because I do this to actually get extra shield damage because of from the burning. Plus it charges Solan's ult for me. And then that anti-attack comes out. I use that because the defense down is already capped, so I do the anti-attack ally in order to get that out because he won't cleanse anymore, and that helps hopefully survive the next turn. And then this is again where I need him to leave Kilns alone and not do physical miss. And this is where I'm realizing I need shields, because I do issue instructions originally, and then I realize I need shields out the butt. And his ult doesn't do a lot of damage compared to the 5 hit, but it does 2 extra hits. I'm making sure she doesn't have magic miss on her. And then this is where I realized that choosing the Arcana Stones was correct, and Gonska the Clown ends up being the hero of the run. Because that extra 3 hits actually matters a lot. Yeah, so then I realized I need to break on turn 14, so I switched this off to lose the buff in order to do 7 hits of axe instead, which ends up being way more important. And Kilns almost died there. Fortunately, I only got 3 stacks of physical attack, but you can see like how close Kilns got to death. 7,000 HP down to 1,000 with 30% passive defense up. This guy hits so hard. So by choosing to do this plus Gonska and using old, also you'll notice that even though the guy drained old meter from me, but it still worked. And because I used Gonska and had the burning, this is just enough hits that I can break using Canary's ult here. And I specifically do use the BP so that way Ringabel can do the maximum damage. Because he doesn't have any more BP regen. I'm just literally just finagling every tiny thing to make sure I'm getting the maximum possible damage. Also, an important thing to note is that the turn after break, he doesn't counter you. So that's why you can go ham on shaving shields without getting physical miss stacks on you. And then I decided to chance it and to do as much damage as possible here and risk some RNG deaths by not having kills on the front to tank the add a turn break. Because I know using Richard's ult here will matter more by getting the most possible damage on this EX skill attack. It's like so close to dying, and I'm like, okay, well I got the extra turn because I broke on turn 14, so he's actually just gonna he's gonna attack out a break and then get serious. So it's like it's okay if some people die, but as long as not too many people die, then it'll be fine. And then the hero, we needed Gonska the Clown. And you'll see just in a second why. I'm fortunate that he targeted enough people so only Signa died, so it didn't mess up the turn orders. It's like because if Richard had died, he could have hit Kilns with missed magic physical attack, for example, and it would have killed everything. But you'll see that getting those 10, 8, 7, and 5 hits here is exactly 30. And I'm like, oh no, I can't break before getting serious procs, except for Gonska the Clown. He has 7 shields, and this is where I realized that I finally won, and I finally got through this bastard. I'm just like checking everything to make sure, because I'm like, I'm pretty sure he dies, but I'm just like, I'm just not risking it, you know? And I'm just like freaking out, making sure that he doesn't have magic miss on, so that way Canary will get the break. Or she doesn't have any physical miss. I'm just like double checking, because I've been at this fight for all weekend long, trying to solve it. All hail our hero, Gonska the Clown. I realized if I had max boosted that attack, it would have just killed him there, but I was playing it safe. I didn't care at that point. I was just like, I won. I don't care. I played it safe. And Kilns gets to actually get the kill, which after the amount of punishment this man took, well deserved. And yeah, that's the fight. It was truly awful, but I did it. First week clear. Streak continues. The next one is Ryu 120. And he's the guy that has the multi-hit reduction buff, debuff, or resistance. So that'll be a fun one to attempt to solve on release. Arigato. I love how this guy is like too timid, but he's like just probably one of the strongest beings in existence. It's always funny like what the level 100 and 120 NPCs are. They're like these like gods among men, but they all have these weird quirks, so that's why they're not gods among men. Arigato.
Ah.
And yeah, that's that. Complete. And then there's the party I use, and I click through the accessories. You can pause as needed to see what was used. I am a dolphin. I spend. I've strategically planned for getting certain A4s. So I do have a lot of key A4s and stuff like that. The most important ones probably being like, I don't know if Talak A4 is hard required, but it definitely helped a lot for the damage, but it's possible that maybe it wasn't. But Canary A4 was good. Joshua A4 for sword res down. Kilns A4 for defense with Hemi A4, which is free. Bargello A4, Nefty A4 for crit and damage cap, and the SP regen as well, because every time this guy hits you, he drains SP. I also forgot to mention it, but it's also interesting how the guy lets you use your ult even if he drains your ult gauge that turn. That was funny. But yeah, that's the first week clear. Thanks for watching, and please like, follow, and subscribe for more COTC content, and I'll do my best in the next one. Bye.